Hey, what's going on, everyone? This is Mitch. Good Sunday evening to you all. Hope you guys have had a great weekend out there so far as we're rounding it off and making our way into another work week and making our way on through July. We mentioned early last week that the tropics were settling back down, and they have. They certainly have. We're kind of in an unfavorable, what we call an MJO phase, where we're in a suppressed state, meaning we have a lot of sinking air, a lot of dry air, and just in the typical tropical Atlantic and the Caribbean, things are just not there for tropical development. But we have the chance for what we call homegrown activity, which is basically going to be a frontal boundary that is making its way through the deep south right now and will eventually drape over portions of the Gulf of Mexico and have a chance to pop a vortice, which is an area of spin, and this will have a chance to develop into a tropical cyclone. In fact, the National Hurricane Center has already got an area of interest out there. So that's going to be the topic of this evening's video, first evening video in the last several days. And I'm telling you guys, this is in the near term pretty much. This is going to happen this week if it does happen, which I really think there's a high chance it does. So this is kind of developing news and near-term news. So definitely stay tuned for the video if you're along the deep south and the southeast, just the Gulf states in general, because I'm not saying this is going to be a high-impact event, but it certainly could be an impactful event in regards to maybe some kind of weak tropical system. So if you guys have not subscribed, certainly consider doing that. Like the video if you like it. Appreciate the ongoing support in these slower times. Hit me up on social media, especially when there's a tropical system to talk about. We have good discussions on social media, and it's definitely a great way to follow along on Twitter, Facebook. If you guys got anything that I can pray about, pray over, please put it in the comments below. It gives me an opportunity to pray over it, and it gives everybody else an opportunity to do so too. And we all look out for one another there. And I've seen a lot over the last couple of days, everybody reaching out to one another, and it's really cool to see. So let's continue to do that. Act like a family atmosphere on here. It's really cool to see. So let's get rolling, and let's take a look at the Gulf of Mexico and the southern sections of the Gulf states like Mississippi, Alabama, Louisiana, and the Panhandle, Florida, and areas of Georgia. And here it is. This frontal boundary is up here, but south of the frontal boundary, that's where you have the tropical moisture, the showers, storms that develop from the unstable environment and the very moist atmosphere, moist environment. And that is what's going on. You basically have pieces of energy, what we call showers and storms, that form, and then they move south, and then they kind of meander over portions of the Gulf of Mexico. And that's what you got going on. You got a lot of showers and storms in southeast Louisiana, and just off the shoreline of Louisiana, Mississippi, Alabama, and the Panhandle of Florida. And this area of just moisture, showers, storms will eventually try to consolidate together and get a little bit of spin going. And we'll have to see if we can get some kind of tropical system. This happens almost once a year, sometimes one or two times a year, where you just get these frontal boundaries that sag into the Gulf of Mexico, and then they stall out, and then just general storms just kind of develop into something. So that's what we got going on here. If we keep it rolling here, you can see this well. This is the surface front from the National Weather Service, and this shows what it will look like around midday tomorrow. This frontal boundary will be all the way almost into the Panhandle of Florida, almost all the way into the Gulf of Mexico. And along this boundary, you have pieces of energy to just flow around this boundary. And as this gets, the tail end of this front gets into the Gulf of Mexico right here, and this little dip right here will be the first area that gets into the Gulf of Mexico. This is when it starts to interact with the warm waters of the Gulf of Mexico, and it gets over water, and then that's when we have the potential for our tropical system. National Hurricane Center at around 2 p.m. This is the latest update. By the time some of you folks watch this, there might be another update around 8 p.m. This might get upgraded to a 30, maybe a 40% chance. I would not be surprised at all if they jump it really quickly to maybe a 40, maybe even a 50% chance, because almost all model guidance is really showing something developing here. And I know you're wondering, I had a question, why is there an X over Atlanta, Georgia, or just south of Atlanta? Well, that is because the origins of this tropical development potential is actually still over land, and that's what it's basically saying. It's saying a cluster of showers and storms are going to continue to meander south and get over the northern sections of the Gulf of Mexico. And if you read the discussion, which all you got to do is literally, guys, type in National Hurricane Center or NHC, and then it has all this available for the public here. So This isn't anything that you have to have a subscription for or pay for. It's all available online. But here it is, a 20% chance of development within the next 5 days. But I'll tell you guys, this will get upgraded to 30, 40, 50% chance, maybe even the next update per 8 p.m. So we'll keep rolling. Let's take a look at the European. We'll take a look at the GFS and the Icon. And then we'll look at the 850 vortice map, which in general is something we look at when we can really see a spin in the low levels of the atmosphere. So here we go. Let's start this off, and let's go on and back this up, let's say, to about Tuesday afternoon. At this point, all your showers and storms are confined to southern sections of Georgia, Alabama, Mississippi, and Florida, and Louisiana. So this is continuing to dip into the Gulf of Mexico, and I know you're thinking, well, all I'm seeing is a bunch of green. Well, if you continue to watch this play out, we start to get into Thursday morning. Look at this low pressure that pops off Thursday morning per the Euro. So all of a sudden, you're getting some sort of spin right into here. A lot of heavy rain is likely for southern sections of Mississippi. Watch out, Louisiana, Baton Rouge, Mobile, Alabama, the far western areas of the panhandle of Florida. And then what happens is the steering current's really slow, which means this kind of stalls out and it just meanders over the same area for a long time. This isn't nothing uncommon for these kind of scenarios. This happens a lot, and it usually happens because the steering currents are weak and these frontal boundaries just don't really get a move on quick, and that's ultimately why they stall out. And then this sometimes happens this time of the year, especially early in the season. But here you go. You're getting into Thursday afternoon. You still got that L down here. Just watch it. You're getting into overnight Thursday into Friday. This coming Friday morning, you got a strengthening low pressure at this point, but it's still just sitting down there. You're getting into Friday evening. You almost got at this point, you're getting to Friday evening, you got a sub 1,000 millibar low pressure. At this point, it's flirting with a named storm if you were to take the European as if it was going to happen. Our next named storm is Danielle, the D name out the 2022 hurricane season, so that'll be the next name out of the hurricane list. You keep this rolling, you're getting into Saturday morning, and this is day 3 or 4 where this low pressure is still just chilling just south of Mobile, Alabama, and just tucked in on this one area right here of the Gulf of Mexico. And at this point, it's a full-fledged tropical storm. A 994 millibar low pressure would tell me that this is certainly a tropical storm. Hurricane, highly doubt it, but you just never know. You're getting into Saturday evening, and this finally gets enough pull north to where it finally actually technically makes landfall as a tropical storm around Mobile, Alabama, per the latest Euro. And then eventually steering currents picks up, and this starts charging over southern Alabama, gets into Georgia, and we're getting very far out at this point, past 200 hours out. So this is not this Tuesday, but next Tuesday. And then it makes its way into South Carolina, actually strengthening, brown water effect. Is it getting enhanced somehow? It doesn't matter because it's very far out. But this shows a full-fledged tropical, probably a weak tropical cyclone flying over South Carolina. I retweeted it on my Twitter. Probably shouldn't have, but it was kind of just as a joke. But in general, this is a possible scenario. But then again, it's 216 hours out. That is about 8, 9, 10 days out. So very far out. It's very hard to take serious at this point. But we have that. Then you take a look at the GFS. What does the GFS show? We'll start it off by early this week. Same kind of scenario. Shows a lot of green down here, a lot of moisture in the northern Gulf of Mexico. Eventually, and you don't see it because we need to look at the vortice map to really see this, but eventually this does develop, but it develops much quicker. And this is actually it right here. Develops it here and then pushes moisture just into the Gulf states. The GFS just ain't buying it, which is odd because the GFS is normally the more crazy aggressive scenarios, but the European is still king overall when it comes to all weather things. Storms, tropics, winter weather, severe weather. A Euro is still overall king. So it's just something we need to watch here, though. But still, the GFS just shows an influx of moisture per the latest GFS. Nothing too crazy, really. And eventually the GFS tries to spin something up towards the end of the run, but it don't really have anything to do with the frontal boundary. The Icon, though, is all in on the Euro. We're getting into Monday. We're getting into Tuesday morning. Look at this area of moisture right here. It makes a lot of sense. And if I move it really fast, you can actually see a little spin. But then we're getting into overnight Wednesday into Thursday morning, and here it is. Pops off the low pressure just south of Mobile and areas of the western panhandle of Florida. Has an all-out probably tropical depression or something. Makes landfall, not near as strong as the Euro, but it still starts to flirt with that sub 1,000 millibar low pressure, which is really that threshold you start to look for this actually becoming or looking like a tropical storm when you're trying to gauge strength on these models. But this shows a full-fledged circulation rotation going around this center of low pressure, maybe a little bit of shear on the western side of the storm. In fact, and we'll talk about environmental factors with this, I think probably in tomorrow's video. When we know a little bit more about this, the models can continue to hone in on this idea. We'll start to talk about what could weaken this, what could promote it. But I'm going to tell you right off the dot that I think the eastern side of the storm will probably be the most active part of the storm. The western probably going to deal with a little bit more of shear, but we'll talk about more of that when we know. But latest icon continues this. We're getting into overnight this coming Friday into Saturday, but the icon actually pushes this west instead of northeast like the Euro. Very odd. Icon pushes it west. So we're still everywhere, and we normally are at this range, because I think in the near term this is going to be a developing thing, but I think in the medium to long term is really when we kind of start to see big impacts. So if any impacts, but the Euro shows the rotation very well, even as early as Tuesday evening, 48 hours from now. You see the wind barbs pointing this way, where this end is going this way. That means the winds are coming this way and showing the rotation, which is the way in the northern hemisphere tropical cyclones rotate wind direction wise. But you keep this rolling Wednesday, getting into Wednesday afternoon, Wednesday evening, and you can see the more vibrant the colors right here, those dark reds, and the brighter colors you're seeing on the screen, the more stronger the storm is getting. And by the time we're getting into Friday morning, this has a strong circulation, and we certainly have a full-blown tropical system as we're entering our weekend this coming up. Not obviously this weekend, but this coming weekend. So the Euro is all in on the idea of the next named storm, which is Danielle. So it's just something we got to watch. One thing I'll mention, and there's no point in staying on this very long, because we still got, I think, figuring out first that this is actually going to develop right into this area. And I think chances are increasing that something is going to develop. But where it goes, does it go west? Does it go north? Does it kind of weaken itself? Does it go northeast like the Euro over Georgia and the Carolinas? What it does after that, very unknown. And how much strengthening happens is is a big unknown too. But you look in general and what you're seeing here, you just see a whole bunch of red pretty much. This is ridging, and in general, this system will form in the middle of kind of weak ridging. Of course, there is troughing up here, but it's far enough north to where it's not really influencing a pull on the system. So you see the L pop off right here from the Euro, but it just meanders in this area because it's lost in weak steering currents from the influence of these of this ridging. But the thing that I think that's going to pull it here is really this. There's going to be an upper level low or something right into here, right over Florida, and then it's going to pull it potentially northeast. That is what the European is saying. And you can see this here, this little tut feature right here kind of moves in and tries to do something here. And here comes the low pressure. And then this little upper level low with the wind direction going around this like this starts to have an influence on this and starts to pull it northeast per the Euro. But this is all everywhere right now. I can't really speak on this with confidence as far as where it's going to go. We don't know. But what we do know is chances are rapidly increasing that something is probably going to form right into here. But we can talk more confidently on 200 millibar wind streams, things like that, which is 35, 37,000 feet up in the air, which is something we kind of look at when we're trying to look at shear and really what's happening on top of the storm as far as what is pulling on this storm and where it's going to try to pull it. But in general, if something like the European, we're going to look at the European ensembles. This is what we're going to look at. If something like this was to play out, a lot of rain should be expected over the southeast if it was to play out. And this is rainfall, and you notice it really spikes from Wednesday through the weekend because it's trying to signal a tropical system. So this is about 12 days out worth of rain, and this would show a very rainy pattern continuing for the southeast, and potentially a lot of rain for the southern Gulf states, certainly possible. But in general, you see the signal here. This is the EPS ensemble right here, members, and basically what this does per Tropical Tidbits is it tries to throw a bunch of numbers out here. So in general, there's a strong signal right here. You see a 99, that stands for 999 millibar low. This 05 right here stands for 1005 millibar low pressure. I know you're thinking, well, is there going to be several low pressures in this area? No, this is an ensemble run, and it throws all the potential runs together, which is there's several runs to make up this ensemble run. And in general, it tries to brighten up the colors to show the signal per this site. This is a better thing to look at. Picks up the signal of something forming, and this is the ensemble mean here per the line. I wouldn't call it a line graph, but just a line scenario of where these systems could go. But what you look at when you look at this, just take this as if something's going to form here, but outside of what happens after that, as far as where it goes, you got lines going this way. You got some low pressures liking the idea, some scenarios liking the low pressure going north, and then you got most of them like the idea of it going northeast. But in general, there is a strong signal that something is going to form down here. But where it goes after that, we have no idea. But I think, as far as impacts, one thing we can certainly be really confident on is the fact that we're going to see a lot of tropical moisture down here. I think flooding is going to be a big threat for these areas of the Deep South and the Gulf states for sure. So we'll continue to try to figure out what's going to happen. That's all I got, guys. Thank y'all for tuning in, and y'all have a great evening.